This is Grow Your Faith, a podcast dedicated to bringing you encouragement from God's Word. Every week, this show will dive into inspirational teachings that will give your spirit the boost it needs. We weren't called to go through this life alone, so let's dive in together with our hosts, Pat Milligan and Michael Chestnut.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Grow Your Faith. I love this part of the day because I come on here with my longtime mentor, Pat Milligan, and he brings us a short series, 5 minutes, but to give us direction and to help us as men and women focus on where God has us going, because I believe a lot of times people just don't have that in their life. And so I hope this is encouraging to you and helps you to grow your faith. Pat Milligan here has been in ministry for how long, Pat? Have you been in ministry?
It's almost 44 years.
44 years of knowledge from this guy. And the one thing I love about Pat has always been consistent, always been that guy I've been able to follow, knowing that, although you're not perfect,
right,
you walk it. And I appreciate that so much, Pat. I appreciate that greatly. And Pat, we're here to do a new series called Building a Life of Truth. I love that. Building a Life of Truth. So we're on part 1. Pat, if you would, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're going to have a 5-week series on building a life of truth. Hebrews chapter 11. And let me read one verse, 11, verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and evidence of things not seen. And then in verse 6, it says, but without faith, it is impossible to please God. It's impossible to please God. And I'm giving you a challenge today, because building a life of truth in different areas. First one is believing when you don't see it. Just simply believe when you don't see it. Trust God that He will help you in everything you do. And I think of this, I think of a few things here today that could possibly really help us. Now, first of all, I remember a story of a rigid chair in high school. It collapsed on someone when they sat in it, which that was really a setup. Really, most of the time people set things up, but they did that. But you got to believe that place where you're sitting today, that you have to trust it. You have to believe in it, and without seeing it. And when you think about this, God shows us some very important things in life. I might ask this question: why should it be difficult for you to trust God? Believe in. See, like for instance, I cannot see what's tomorrow. I remember back when I was younger, I just wanted to simply trust God, but I didn't know exactly sometimes where He wanted to lead us. And I always thought it'd be nice to write just a book on how God led within my life. Sometimes I did not know what He was going to do in my life.
Yeah.
I had to just simply say, Lord, show me, and give it over to Him. And you know what? God has done that in my life. And I think about this thing, and verse 6 is so important. But without faith, it is possible to please God. We have to have faith in God, faith in what we're trying to accomplish for Him, and trust Him that He will help you and I get through this in our life. And I'm saying to you today, as you think about this first point, believing when I don't see it, that's something we just got to trust God. And I'll tell you what, if you do it, I'll tell you one thing: God will help you to get to believe and see it someday.
And it's so difficult for us because we're visual people, so that faith, it requires a lot for us, because as visual people, we tend not to trust something we don't see, right? But God, what's amazing to me, Pat, is as you walk in faith, though, you start seeing God everywhere.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So as a visual person, I do start seeing Him. So it's a supernatural experience in a lot of ways, but very real. And I just, I understand the struggles with some people because they can't see it. It's really hard to put that faith into it. But until you put that faith into God and follow him, you're not going to see a lot of things, but once you do start, it's amazing. I see God in my family now. I see God in my work. I see God, just everywhere, my friendships, just all these different things. And it's because I had to give way to me first and just trust God where I couldn't do it. So thank you again, Pat, for that today. And remind you guys, just keep growing your faith. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Faith podcast with Pat Milligan and Michael Chestnut, your weekly dose of encouragement from God's Word. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you next week right here on Grow Your Faith.